the difference between a woman who stays waiting after a fight and one who finds her peace, regardless of what happens. This distinction goes beyond actions and words. It is rooted in how we understand love and relate to ourselves and others. Imagine a woman who, after a heated argument, feels as if she has built a house of cards. Every harsh word, every heavy silence is like an earthquake that collapses what she has built. But here is the revelation. What if I told you that the house that collapses is not hers, but the one she built for him? This thought may seem shocking, but it is a moment of deep awakening. During a fight, a man's nervous system activates as if he is facing real danger. His mind may confuse love with war and closeness with a threat. It's not that he doesn't love you. It's that in that moment, his body perceives pain as an attack on his essence. The key is not the fight itself, but what we do afterward. The silence that punishes, the coldness that distances, the pride that erects granite walls. These are the true enemies of relationships. When a woman responds to a man's distance with further distance, when she interprets his need for space as a personal abandonment, something fragile and precious breaks. Trust. Trust is not believing that he will never hurt you, because pain is an inevitable part of true intimacy. Trust is knowing that when pain comes, you both will know how to find your way back to each other, like two travelers lost in a storm. I have seen many beautiful, intelligent, and successful women become tiny versions of themselves after a discussion. They walk on eggshells, measuring every word as if it were poison, and observing every gesture of their partner as detectives of their love. And he feels it. He starts to pull away, not because he doesn't love her, but because he senses that he cannot be himself without disappointing her. Every gesture of his is analyzed, every silence interpreted as a condemnation. It's a vicious cycle in which both feel trapped. But let me tell you the story of another woman, a woman who came into my office after years of relationships that always ended the same painful way. She, who chased like a lost soul, begged like a scared child, trying to fix what had broken with her bloodied hands. She told me, with a broken but determined voice, "Doctor, I'm tired of loving as if my life depended on it." I felt the pain in her words and realized that it was time for a change. I gently asked her, "What if I told you that true love begins when your life no longer depends on it?" We worked together, exploring the labyrinths of her heart, dismantling the beliefs that had led her to lose herself in love for others. And something in her changed profoundly. She didn't become harder or less loving. She became more present, more rooted in her own truth. The next time she had a disagreement with her partner, something in the air of the room was different. When he distanced himself with that familiar coldness, she didn't chase him. She didn't curl up in fear. She no longer felt at the mercy of her emotions. She took a deep breath, like someone who finds oxygen after being underwater. From that mindful breath, she managed to do something revolutionary. She was able to love without suffocating, to feel the absence without chasing, to want without needing. That night, he returned, not because she followed a self-help manual, but because for the first time he didn't feel the need to run away from her to breathe. His love was no longer a net that imprisoned him, but a space where he could truly feel free. And do you know what the most beautiful thing about this whole experience was? She told me with a smile that seemed to come from deep within. It wasn't just that he came back, although that made me happy. It was knowing that I was okay, even if he didn't come back. My peace didn't depend on his decisions. This is the paradoxical truth of mature love. We can only attract what we do not chase in desperation. We can only receive the love that we do not beg for. I'm not talking about coldness or indifference. I'm talking about a deep and authentic sweetness. It is the ability to love from fullness and not from lack. When a woman manages to contain her emotional storm without projecting it onto the other, she creates a safe space for reconnection. When a woman knows how to be sweet without being weak, knows how to yield without losing herself, and knows how to welcome without abandoning herself, something rearranges in his nervous system. His primitive brain stops perceiving an imminent danger, and his heart allows itself to open again. But this sweetness must come from an authentic place. If it is a manipulative strategy, he will sense it immediately. True sweetness comes from inner strength, from the awareness that we can withstand whatever comes. I have seen women transform their relationships simply by changing how they relate to themselves after a fight. They have learned to be present, to uphold their dignity, and to become a space where love can bloom naturally. But be careful, not all relationships deserve our sweetness. It is essential to know when it is time to establish clear boundaries and when it is time to welcome. Not every man deserves our emotional softening. If he uses our tenderness against us, if he confuses our understanding with a license to hurt us without consequences, then the answer is not to be sweeter, but clearer. A mature woman knows when to welcome and when to step away, like someone who knows the seasons of the soul. She knows she can be kind and strong at the same time, like water that can be a gentle caress or a force capable of shaping mountains. She knows she can love deeply without completely losing herself in the process. Have you ever noticed how small children run to their mother when they are afraid of life's storms? It doesn't matter if mom was angry 5 minutes before, they still run to her because they know, in a deep and instinctive place, that mom is unconditional security. This is the energy of a woman who has learned to love with emotional maturity. She becomes a refuge for the soul, not because she has no boundaries, but because her boundaries are clear and loving, creating a truly safe space for authentic vulnerability. In that sacred space, a man can be imperfect without feeling rejected, can go through difficult moments without being abandoned, and can show his humanity without losing his place in your heart. But he also knows that this space has invisible but firm rules. Security is not a license for gratuitous cruelty. Understanding is not tolerance for systematic abuse. Love is not the absence of limits, but the presence of loving boundaries that protect the sacredness of connection. I remember a woman who told me with tears in her eyes, "Doctor, I think I've confused love with emotional rescue. Every time he pulls away, I feel like I have to save him. But I'm tired of being the emotional paramedic of this relationship." I asked her, what if he didn't need to be saved? What if he just needed to be seen in his full humanity? Sometimes, the most loving gesture you can do for a man after a fight is not to fix his emotional state, but to trust that he can do it on his own. Give him the sacred space to find his way back by himself. Be there when he returns, with open arms, but not desperate, with a heart available, but not needy. This is the fundamental difference between a woman who waits out of fear and one who waits out of love. A plea for him to come back to feel complete again, like a puzzle missing a piece. The other is already complete within herself, and her door is open for him to join that fullness as an honored guest. Men perceive this difference with surprising precision. They feel it in your voice, in your energy, in every gesture. Towards a woman who radiates inner completeness, a man does not feel attracted by guilt or obligation. He feels attracted by genuine admiration, by deep respect, by that recognition that being with her makes him a better man. True loyalty, the kind that lasts through life's storms, is not built on desperate need, but on the conscious choice of two complete people to create something more beautiful together than they could create alone. When a woman can be in a relationship without losing herself, like someone who becomes the ocean, when she can love deeply without loving desperately, then she becomes someone a man does not want to lose, not out of fear, but out of infinite gratitude. In conclusion, I invite you to reflect on how you approach your relationships. Remember that the journey toward a healthy relationship begins with ourselves. We must learn to choose ourselves, to build a full and fulfilling life. When we embrace our emotional power and our authenticity, we create a strong and lasting love. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. Remember always, true love flourishes when we feel complete within ourselves. See you soon.